Chapter 4. Exit Monsieur Parvissimus. At 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon, the curtain rose on.
Figaro Scaramouche.
To an audience that filled 3/4 of the market hall. Monsieur Binet attributed this good attendance to the influx of people coming to Guachin for the fair, to the magnificent parade his company had made through the streets of the township during the busiest time of the day. André-Louis attributed it entirely to the title. It was the
Figaro
touch that had brought in the better-class bourgeoisie, which filled more than half of the 20-sou places and 3/4 of the 12-sou seats. The lure had drawn them. Whether it was to continue to do so would depend upon the manner in which the canvas, over which he had labored for the glory of Binet, was interpreted by the company. He had no doubt about the merits of the canvas itself. The authors he had drawn upon for its elements were sound. He had taken their best work, which he claimed was nothing more than the justice they were due. The company excelled itself. The audience followed the sly intriguings of Scaramouche with relish, delighted in the beauty and freshness of Clymene, was moved almost to tears by the hard fate which kept her from the hungering arms of the beautiful Leandre through 4 long acts. They howled with delight over the ignominy of Pantaloon, the buffooneries of his sprightly lackey Harlequin, the strutting and bellowing fierceness of the cowardly Rhodomont. The success of the Binet troupe in Guachin was assured. That night, the company drank Burgundy at Monsieur Binet's expense. The takings reached the sum of 8 louis, which was as good business as Monsieur Binet had ever done in all his career. He was very pleased. Gratification rose like steam from his fat body. He even condescended so far as to attribute a share of the credit for the success to Monsieur Parvissimus.
His suggestion was most valuable.
He was careful to say, in order to properly limit that share.
As I perceived at the time. And his cutting of quills,
growled Polichinelle.
Do not forget that. It is most important to have a man by you who understands how to cut a quill, which I shall remember when I turn author.
But not even that jibe could stir Monsieur Binet out of his lethargy of contentment. On Tuesday, the success was repeated artistically and augmented financially. 10 louis and 7 livres was the enormous sum that André-Louis, the doorkeeper, counted over to Monsieur Binet after the performance. Never yet had Monsieur Binet made so much money in one evening. A miserable little village like Guachin was certainly the last place he would have expected this windfall.
But Guachin is in time of fair,
André-Louis reminded him.
There are people here from as far as Nantes and Rennes to buy and sell. Tomorrow will be the last day of the fair, and the crowds will be greater than ever. We should better this evening's receipts. Better them? I shall be quite satisfied if we do as well, my friend. You can depend upon that,
André-Louis assured him.
Are we to have Burgundy?
And then the tragedy occurred. It announced itself in a succession of bumps and thuds, culminating in a crash outside the door that brought them all to their feet in alarm. Pierrot sprang to open the door and beheld the tumbled body of a man lying at the foot of the stairs. It emitted groans, so it was alive. Pierrot went forward to turn it over and disclosed the fact that the body wore the wizened face of Scaramouche. It was a grimacing, groaning, twitching Scaramouche. The whole company pressed after Pierrot and abandoned itself to laughter.
I always said you should change parts with me,
cried Harlequin.
You are such an excellent tumbler. Have you been practicing? Fool.
Scaramouche snapped.
Must you be laughing when I have all but broken my neck? You are right. We ought to be weeping because you did not break it. Come, man, get up.
He held out a hand to the prostrate rogue. Scaramouche took the hand, clutched it, and heaved himself from the ground, but then he dropped back again with a scream.
My foot,
he complained. Binet rolled through the group of players and scattered them to the right and left. Apprehension had been quick to seize him. Fate had played him such tricks before.
What ails your foot?
He asked sourly.
It is broken, I think.
Scaramouche complained.
Broken? Bah! Get up, man.
He caught him under the armpits and hauled him up. Scaramouche came howling to one foot. The other foot doubled under him when he attempted to set it down, and he must have collapsed again if Benet had not supported him. He filled the place with his complaints, while Benet swore amazingly and variedly.
Must you bellow like a calf, you fool? Be quiet. Someone bring a chair here.
A chair was thrust forward, and he crushed Scaramouche down into it.
Let us look at this foot of yours.
He swept away the shoe and stocking, heedless of the howls of pain from Scaramouche.
What ails it?
He asked, staring.
There is nothing that I can see.
He seized the foot with his heel in one hand and his instep in the other, gyrated it. Scaramouche screamed in agony, until climbing caught Benet's arm and made him stop.
My God, have you no feelings?
She reproved her father.
The lad has hurt his foot. Must you torture him? Will that cure it? Hurt his foot,
Said Benet.
I can see nothing the matter with his foot, and nothing to justify all this uproar. He has bruised it, maybe. A man with a bruised foot does not scream like that,
Said Madame over Climbing's shoulder.
Perhaps he has dislocated it. That is what I fear,
Whimpered Scaramouche. Benet heaved himself up in disgust.
Take him to bed,
He told them.
and fetch a doctor to see him.
This was done, and the doctor came. After seeing the patient, he reported that nothing very serious had happened, but that he had evidently sprained his foot a little in the fall. A few days of rest, and all would be well.
A few days.
Cried Benet.
God of God, do you mean that he cannot walk? It would be unwise and indeed impossible for more than a few steps.
Monsieur Benet paid the fee of the doctor and sat down to think. He filled himself a glass of Burgundy, tossed it off without a word, and then sat staring into the empty glass.
It is, of course, the sort of thing that must always be happening to me.
He grumbled to no one in particular. The members of the company were all standing in silence before him and sharing his dismay.
I might have known that this, or something like it, would occur to spoil the first vein of luck that I have found in years. Ah well, it is finished. Tomorrow we pack and depart. It is the best day of the fair. We are on the crest of the wave of our success, with a good 15 louis to be taken, and this happens. God of God! Do you mean to abandon tomorrow's performance?
Everyone turned to stare with Benet at André-Louis.
Are we to play Figaro Scaramouche without Scaramouche?
Asked Benet, sneering.
Of course not.
André-Louis came forward.
But surely some rearrangement of the parts is possible. For instance, there is a fine actor in Polichinelle.
Polichinelle swept him a bow.
I am overwhelmed,
He said, ever sardonic.
but he has a part of his own.
Objected Benet.
A small part which Pasquariel could play. And who will play Pasquariel? Nobody. We delete it. The play need not suffer. He thinks of everything.
Sneered Polichinelle.
What a man!
But Benet was far from agreement.
Are you suggesting that Polichinelle should play Scaramouche?
He asked incredulously.
Why not? He is able enough. Overwhelmed again.
Interjected Polichinelle.
Play Scaramouche with that figure?
Benet heaved himself up to point a denunciatory finger at the sturdy and thick-set shortness of Polichinelle.
For lack of a better.
Said André-Louis.
Overwhelmed more than ever.
The bow of Polichinelle was superb this time.
Faith, I think I will take the air to cool me after so much blushing. Go to the devil.
Benet flung at him.
Better and better.
Polichinelle made for the door. He halted on the threshold and struck an attitude.
Understand me, Benet. I do not now play Scaramouche in any circumstances whatever.
And he went out. On the whole, it was a very dignified exit. André-Louis shrugged, threw out his arms, and let them fall to his sides again.
You have ruined everything.
He told Monsieur Benet.
The matter could easily have been arranged. Well, you are the master here, and since you want us to pack and be off, I suppose that is what we will do.
He went out, too. Monsieur Binet stood in thought for a moment, then followed him with his little eyes looking very cunning. He caught him up in the doorway.
Let us take a walk together, Monsieur Pervissimus,
he said, very affably. He thrust his arm through the arm of André-Louis and led him out into the street, where there was still considerable movement. They went past the booths that ranged about the market and down the hill towards the bridge.
I do not think we shall pack tomorrow,
said Monsieur Binet presently.
In fact, we shall play tomorrow night. Not if I know Polichinelle. You have... I am not thinking of Polichinelle. Of whom, then? Of yourself. I am flattered, sir. And in what capacity are you thinking of me?
There was something too sleek and oily in the voice of Binet for the taste of André-Louis.
I am thinking of you in the part of Scaramouche. Daydreams,
said André-Louis.
You are amusing yourself, of course. Not in the least. I am quite serious. But I am not an actor. You told me that you could be. Oh, upon occasion, perhaps a small part. Well, here is a big part and the chance to arrive at a single stride. How many men have had such a chance? It is a chance I do not covet, Monsieur Binet. Shall we change the subject?
He was very frosty, as much perhaps because he scented something vague and menacing in the manner of Monsieur Binet as for any other reason.
We will change the subject when I please,
said Monsieur Binet, allowing a glimpse of steel to glimmer through the silk of his words.
Tomorrow night you play Scaramouche. You are ready enough in your wits, your figure is ideal, and you have just the kind of mordant humor for the part. You should be a great success. It is much more likely that I should be an egregious failure. That will not matter,
said Binet cynically, and then explained himself.
The failure will be personal to yourself. The receipts will be safe by then. Much obliged,
said André-Louis.
We should take 15 louis tomorrow night. It is unfortunate that you are without a Scaramouche,
said André-Louis.
It is fortunate that I have one, Monsieur Pervissimus.
André-Louis disengaged his arm.
I begin to find you tiresome,
he said.
I think I will return. A moment, Monsieur Pervissimus. If I am to lose that 15 louis, you will not take it amiss that I compensate myself in other ways? That is your own concern, Monsieur Binet. Pardon, Monsieur Pervissimus. It may possibly be also yours.
Binet took his arm again.
Do me the kindness to step across the street with me. Let us just go as far as the post office there. I have something to show you.
André-Louis went. Before they reached the sheet of paper nailed upon the door, he knew exactly what it would say. It was in effect what he had supposed, stating that 20 louis would be paid for information leading to the apprehension of one André-Louis Moreau, a lawyer of Gavrillac, who was wanted by the king's lieutenant in Rennes upon a charge of sedition. Monsieur Binet watched him while he read. Their arms were linked, and the grip of Binet was firm and powerful.
Now, my friend,
he said,
will you be Monsieur Pervissimus and play Scaramouche tomorrow? Or will you be André-Louis Moreau of Gavrillac and go to Rennes to satisfy the king's lieutenant? And if it should happen that you are mistaken?
Asked André-Louis, his face a mask.
I will take the risk of that,
leered Monsieur Binet.
You mentioned, I think, that you were a lawyer. That was an indiscretion, my dear. It is unlikely that two lawyers will be in hiding at the same time in the same district. You see, it is not really clever of me. Well, Monsieur André-Louis Moreau, lawyer of Gavrillac, what is it to be? We will talk it over as we walk back,
said André-Louis.
What is there to talk over? One or two things, I think. I must know where I stand. Come, sir, if you please. Very well,
said Monsieur Binet, and they turned up the street again. However, Monsieur Binet maintained a firm hold on the arm of his young friend, kept himself on the alert for any tricks that the young gentleman might be disposed to play. It was an unnecessary precaution. André-Louis was not the man to waste his energy futilely. He knew that in bodily strength he was no match at all for the heavy and powerful Pantaloon.
If I yield to your most eloquent and seductive persuasions, Monsieur Binet,
He said sweetly,
what guarantee do you give me that you will not sell me for 20 louis after I have served your turn? You have my word of honor for that.
Monsieur Binet was emphatic. André-Louis laughed.
Oh, we are to talk of honor, are we? Really, Monsieur Binet? It is clear you think me a fool.
In the dark he did not see the flush that leapt to the round face of Monsieur Binet. It was some moments before he replied.
Perhaps you are right.
He growled.
What guarantee do you want? I do not know what guarantee you can possibly give. I have said that I will keep faith with you until you find it more profitable to sell me. You have it in your power to make it more profitable always for me to keep faith with you. It is due to you that we have done so well in Guachin. Oh, I admit it frankly. In private,
said André-Louis. Monsieur Binet left the sarcasm unheeded.
what you have done for us here with Figaro Scaramouche, you can do elsewhere with other things. Naturally, I shall not want to lose you. That is your guarantee. Yet tonight you would sell me for 20 louis. Because, name of God, you enrage me by refusing me a service well within your powers. Do you not think, had I been entirely the rogue you think me, I could have sold you on Saturday last? I want you to understand me, my dear Pervissimus. I beg that you will not apologize. You would be more tiresome than ever. Of course you will be jibing. You never miss a chance to jibe. It will bring you trouble before you are done with life. Come, here we are back at the inn, and you have not yet given me your decision.
André-Louis looked at him.
I must yield, of course. I cannot help myself.
Monsieur Binet released his arm at last, and slapped him heartily upon the back.
Well declared, my lad. You will never regret it. If I know anything of the theater, I know that you have made the great decision of your life. Tomorrow night you will thank me.
André-Louis shrugged, and stepped out ahead towards the inn. But Monsieur Binet called him back.
Monsieur Parvissimus.
He turned. There stood the great bulk of the man, the moonlight beating down upon that round, fat face of his. He was holding out his hand.
Monsieur Parvissimus, no rancor. It is a thing I do not admit into my life. You will shake hands with me, and we will forget all this.
André-Louis considered him a moment with disgust. He was growing angry. Then, realizing this, he conceived himself ridiculous, almost as ridiculous as that sly and scoundrelly Pantaloon. He laughed and took the outstretched hand.
No rancor?
Monsieur Binet insisted.
Oh, no rancor,
said André-Louis. Chapter 5. Enter Scaramouche. He was dressed in the close-fitting black suit of a past age. The suit included a flat velvet cap and shoes with rosettes. His face was whitened, and a slight curled mustache was glued to his upper lip. A small sword hung at his side, and he had a guitar slung across his back. Scaramouche surveyed himself in a mirror. He felt quite sardonic, which was the perfect mood for his new part. He reflected on his life. Until recently, his life had been stagnant and contemplative, but it had suddenly become incredibly active. In just 1 week, he had been a lawyer, a mob orator, an outlaw, a property man, and finally a buffoon. Last Wednesday, he had riled up an audience in Rennes to anger. On this Wednesday, he was going to make an audience in Guachin laugh. Back then, he wanted to draw tears. Today, his job was to provoke laughter. There was a difference, but there was also a parallel. He had been a comedian then, just as he was now. When he thought about it, his role in Rennes was very similar to the part he would play this evening. In Rennes, he had acted like a sort of Scaramouche. He had been the little skirmisher and the clever intriguer who secretly scattered the seeds of trouble. The only difference was his name. Today, He used a name that openly described his character type. Last week, he had disguised himself as a respectable young provincial attorney. He bowed to his reflection in the mirror.
Buffoon.
He told his reflection.
At last you have found yourself. At last you have come into your true heritage. You should be a great success.
He heard Monsieur Binet call his new name. He went downstairs to find the company gathered in the entrance corridor of the inn. He was naturally an object of great interest to the entire company. Monsieur Binet and Mademoiselle Clymene inspected him very critically. Monsieur Binet searched him with grave eyes, while Clymene looked at him with a scornful curl of her lip.
You will do.
Monsieur Binet commended his makeup.
At least you look the part. Unfortunately, men are not always what they look.
Clymene said bitterly.
That truth does not apply to me right now.
André-Louis replied.
This is the first time in my life that I actually look like what I am.
Mademoiselle Clymene curled her lip even more and turned her shoulder away from him. But the rest of the company thought he was very witty. They probably thought so because his meaning was a bit obscure. Columbine encouraged him with a friendly smile that showed her large white teeth. Monsieur Binet swore once again that André-Louis would be a great success, since he had thrown himself into the role with such spirit. Then, Monsieur Binet organized them for the short parade over to the market hall. He used a booming voice that sounded like he had borrowed it from the roaring captain. The new Scaramouche took his place beside Rhodomont. The old Scaramouche had left an hour ago on his crutch. He went to take the job of doorkeeper, which André-Louis had been forced to leave. So the two men had completely swapped their jobs. Polichinelle banged his large drum, and Pierrot blew his trumpet to lead the way. They set out and marched past the local ragamuffins. These poor people had lined up to enjoy the free spectacle of the parade. 10 minutes later, 3 knocks sounded. The curtains were drawn aside to reveal a battered stage set that looked like a mix between a garden and a forest. Clymene was on stage, looking feverishly for Leander to arrive. The handsome, melancholy lover stood in the wings waiting for his cue. Right behind him stood the inexperienced Scaramouche, who was scheduled to follow him shortly. André-Louis felt a sudden wave of nausea during that terrifying moment. He tried to do a quick mental review of the first act of the scenario. He was the main author of this play, but he found his mind completely blank. Sweat broke out on his skin, and he stepped back to the wall. A sheet of paper was pasted there above a dim lantern. It contained a brief outline of the play. He was still studying it when someone grabbed his arm and pulled him violently toward the wings. He caught a glimpse of Pantaloon's grotesque face and blazing eyes. He heard a harsh growl.
Clymene has spoken your cue 3 times already.
Before he realized what was happening, he was pushed onto the stage. He stood there looking foolish and blinking in the glare of the footlights, which were backed by tin reflectors. He looked so utterly foolish and confused that the audience roared with laughter. The hall was completely packed that evening. He trembled a little, and his confusion only grew at first. He stood there taking in the loud laughter aimed at his ridiculous appearance. Clymene was watching him with expectant mockery. She was eager to see him humiliated. Leander looked at him in sheer panic, while Monsieur Binet was dancing with fury behind the scenes.
Name of a name.
Monsieur Binet groaned to the frightened actors backstage.
What will happen when they realize that he is not actually acting?
But the audience never did figure it out. Scaramouche's bewildered paralysis only lasted for a few seconds. He realized they were laughing at him. He remembered that his character Scaramouche was supposed to be someone the audience laughed with, not at. He knew he had to save the situation and twist it to his advantage. His real confusion and fear vanished. He replaced them with acted confusion and fear, which were much more exaggerated but not quite as funny. He managed to make it look like he was terrified of someone off the stage. He hid behind a painted shrub. When the laughter finally began to die down, he spoke to Clymene and Leander.
Please forgive me, beautiful lady, if my sudden entrance startled you. The truth is, I have never been the same since my last encounter with Almaviva. My heart is not as strong as it used to be. Down there at the end of the lane, I bumped into an elderly gentleman carrying a heavy cudgel. The terrible thought struck me that he might be your father. I worried that someone had already betrayed our little plan to get you safely married. I think his large club put that idea in my head. Not that I am afraid. I am not really afraid of anything. But I could not help thinking that, if he really was your father, he might have broken my head with his club. Then your hopes would have died with me. What would you two poor children have done without me?
A ripple of laughter from the audience steadily encouraged him. It helped him recover his natural boldness. It was clear that the audience found him funny. They were about to find him much funnier than he ever intended. This was largely due to a lucky circumstance that he had not fully considered. He had been very afraid that someone from Gavrilac or Rin might recognize him. His face makeup was heavy enough to hide his identity, but his voice was still a risk. To disguise his voice, he decided to use the fact that his character Figaro was Spanish. Back at the Louis Legrand school, he had known a Spanish student. This student spoke fluent but extremely strange French with an absurd amount of hissing sounds. André-Louis had often imitated that accent, just as young boys mock traits they find funny. Luckily, he remembered that Spanish student and based his stage voice on that accent tonight. The audience in Guachin found his accent just as hilarious as he and his classmates had found the real Spaniard's voice years ago. Meanwhile, Monsieur Binet listened to this smooth, improvised speech from backstage. The script gave no hint of these lines, but Binet had recovered from his panic.
God of God,
He whispered with a grin.
did he do all of that on purpose?
He thought it was impossible for a man who looked so terrified to recover his wits so quickly and completely. Yet, the doubt remained in Binet's mind. He decided to find out after the curtain fell on the first act. The act had been performed with an energy that the company had never seen before. The success of the act rested almost entirely on the slim shoulders of the new Scaramouche. Monsieur Binet questioned him bluntly to resolve his doubt. They were standing in the small space that served as a green room. The whole company gathered there to shower their new recruit with congratulations. Scaramouche felt a little thrilled by his success right then, even if he might think it was silly tomorrow. He took full revenge on Clymene for the malicious pleasure she had shown during his moment of real panic.
I am not surprised that you ask.
He said,
Honestly, I should have warned you that I planned to do my best to put the audience in a good mood from the very start. Mademoiselle Clymene very nearly ruined the whole thing by refusing to react to my fear. She did not even look startled. Next time, mademoiselle, I will give you full warning of everything I intend to do.
Her face turned crimson under her grease paint. Before she could think of a sufficiently venomous reply, her father scolded her harshly for her stupidity. He scolded her even harder because he had also been fooled by Scaramouche's brilliant acting. Scaramouche's success in the first act grew even stronger as the play went on. He was completely in control of himself by now. He felt energized, the way only success can energize a person, and he warmed up to his performance. He was cheeky, quick, sly, and graceful. He became the perfect ideal of Scaramouche. He boosted his own natural wit by tossing in remembered lines from Beaumarchais. This convinced the more educated people in the crowd that they were seeing the real Figaro. It made them feel connected to the grand, sophisticated world of the capital city. When the curtain finally fell for the last time, Scaramouche shared the evening's honors with Clymene. His name was called out along with hers when the audience demanded they return to the stage. They stepped back, and the curtains hid them from the leaving audience once again. Monsieur Binet walked up to them, rubbing his fat hands together softly. This runaway young lawyer had just stumbled into his company by chance. It seemed clear that fate had sent him to make Binet's fortune. This sudden success at Guachin was unmatched in their history, and Binet planned to repeat and grow it in other towns. There would be no more sleeping under bushes or going hungry. Their hard times were over. He placed a hand on Scaramouche's shoulder. He smiled at him, and even his red paint and massive fake nose could not hide his oily expression.
And what do you have to say to me now?
Binet asked him.
Was I wrong when I promised that you would succeed? Do you think I have spent my whole life in the theater without recognizing a born actor when I see one? You are my discovery, Scaramouche. I have helped you discover your true self. I have set your feet on the path to fame and fortune. I am waiting for your thanks.
Scaramouche laughed at him. and his laugh was not entirely friendly.
You are always playing pantaloon,
he said. The large man's face darkened.
I see that you still have not forgiven me for the little trick I used to make you do your best. You ungrateful dog. You act as if I had any goal other than to make you a star, and I have done exactly that. Keep going the way you started, and you will end up in Paris. You might even perform at the Comédie Française and rival great actors like Talma, Fleury, and Dugazon. When that happens, perhaps you will feel the gratitude you owe to old Binet. You will owe it all to this soft-hearted old fool. If you were as good an actor on the stage as you are in real life,
Scaramouche said,
you would have made it to the Comédie Française a long time ago yourself. But I hold no grudge against you, Monsieur Binet.
He laughed and held out his hand. Binet grabbed it and shook it warmly.
Well, that is something, at least,
he declared.
My boy, I have big plans for you and for all of us. Tomorrow we go to Moore. There is a fair there until the end of this week. Then, on Monday, we will try our luck at Pipriac, and after that we will decide our next step. I think I might be about to achieve my life's dream. We must have taken in over 15 louis tonight. Where the devil is that rascal Courtemet?
Courtemet was the name of the original Scaramouche, who had unfortunately twisted his ankle. Binet referred to him by his real name, which proved that the man had forever lost his high status as Scaramouche in the Binet Company.
Let us go find him, and then we will head back to the inn to open a bottle of the best Burgundy. We might even open 2 bottles.
But they could not find Courtemet easily. Nobody in the company had seen him since the play ended. Monsieur Binet went around to the entrance, but Courtemet was not there. At first, Binet was just annoyed. Then, as he kept yelling the man's name with no answer, he began to feel uneasy. Finally, Polichinelle, who was walking with them, found Courtemet's crutch lying abandoned behind the door. Monsieur Binet became truly frightened. A terrible suspicion popped into his mind, and he turned visibly pale beneath his stage paint.
But he could not walk without his crutch this evening,
Binet exclaimed.
So how did he leave it here and walk away? Maybe he went back to the inn,
Someone suggested.
but he could not walk without his crutch.
Monsieur Binet insisted again. However, since Courtemet was clearly not anywhere near the market hall, they all walked back to the inn together. They bombarded the landlady with their loud questions.
Oh yes, Monsieur Courtemet came in a while ago. Where is he now? He left again immediately. He just came to grab his bag. For his bag?
Binet was on the edge of having a stroke.
How long ago was that?
She looked at the clock on the mantelpiece.
It was about half an hour ago, just a few minutes before the diligence coach to Rennes passed through town. The Rennes diligence.
Monsieur Binet could barely speak.
Could he walk?
He asked in a tone of utter dread.
Walk? He ran like a hare when he left the inn. I actually thought his quickness was a bit suspicious, considering how badly he was limping after he fell down the stairs yesterday. Is something wrong?
Monsieur Binet collapsed into a chair. He grabbed his head with both hands and groaned.
That scoundrel was faking it the whole time.
Clymene yelled.
His fall down the stairs was just a trick. He planned this. He has robbed us. 15 louis at least, maybe 16.
Monsieur Binet said.
Oh, that heartless criminal. To rob me when I have treated him like a father. And to rob me at a moment like this.
The rest of the company stood in silent shock. They were all wondering how much money would be deducted from their own small paychecks to cover the loss. Then, someone sputtered with laughter. Monsieur Binet glared at them with bloodshot eyes.
Who is laughing?
He roared.
What heartless monster has the nerve to laugh at my misfortune?
André-Louis stepped forward. He was still wearing the dark, grand costume of Scaramouche, and he was still laughing.
So it is you, is it? You might change your tune, my friend, if I decide to take back my money in a way I know how. You dullard.
Scaramouche mocked him.
You rabbit-brained elephant. So what if Courtemay ran off with 15 Louis? Has he not left you something worth 20 times as much?
Monsieur Binet stared at him, completely confused.
I think you are stuck between two wines. You have been drinking.
Binet concluded.
Yes, I have. I have been drinking at the fountain of comedy. Oh, do you really not see it? Do you not see the treasure that Courtemay left behind? What did he leave? A unique idea for a brand new play. It is unfolding right in front of my eyes. I will borrow part of the title from Molière. We will call it The Deceits of Scaramouche. If we don't leave the audiences in Moore and Pipriac with their sides hurting from laughter, I swear I will play the dullard pantaloon from now on.
Polichinelle smacked his fist into his open palm.
Superb.
He said fiercely.
To pull fortune out of disaster, to turn a loss into a profit, that takes true genius.
Scaramouche offered a dramatic bow.
Polichinelle, you are a man after my own heart. I love someone who can recognize my talent. If Pantaloon had even half of your brains, we would be drinking Burgundy tonight despite Courtemay running away. Burgundy?
Monsieur Binet roared. Before he could say anything else, Harlequin clapped his hands together.
That is the right spirit, Monsieur Binet. You heard him, landlady. He ordered Burgundy. I did not order any such thing. But you heard him, dear madam. We all heard him.
The rest of the actors chimed in and agreed. Meanwhile, Scaramouche smiled and patted Binet on the shoulder.
Get up, man, and have a little courage. Did you not just say that fortune is waiting for us? Do we not have the power to seize that fortune right now? Let us have Burgundy, then. We will use it to toast to the deceits of Scaramouche.
Monsieur Binet was not blind to the brilliant idea. He finally gave in, found his courage, and got drunk with the rest of them.